And that's the same one too. But hold on. Yeah, that's the same one. Give me a second, bro. Uh, yep, I've been here for a minute. Yeah, it's cold. I said it's cold. Right. I said it's a little nippy. Right. Yeah, I'm live. Hold on. You got to give me a minute though. Hold on. Let me change something. Hold on. Give me 1 second, y'all. Let me set something up real fast. Hold on. 1 second. Okay, I think that's better. Yeah, that's better. 1 second. Let me set one more thing up. Where is that? Hold on. Where? Yep. Yep. And you'll be good. And call me. Or I'll be on the GCU log. I'm about to log on now. So I'm gonna go live. You can ask me any question. Okay. Peace. All right. Peace, everybody. Let me set one more. I'm just getting a couple things set up for my different platforms. Okay, got you. Apologies. Get that set up good? Yeah, I think that's set up good. Let me see. Okay, yep. That's set up good. Cool. So we all official like a referee whistle. Let me get a couple more things situated. Yeah, man. It's good to be home. I be busy than a mug. Whoa. Oop. Sorry about that. I said I've been busy getting a lot done before I make my way back to AZ. But give me one more second. Get your pencils and your papers, everybody. What did I do with that? Oh, here we go. You know how picture pages go? Get your papers and your pencils. Yeah, I just need to sit this on there. It's not standing up on that, but that'll work better right there. Like so. There we go. All right. Sorry, let me just finish sending this email. I didn't get to finish this when I was at the library, so give me a couple seconds. Let me send this. I got like 4 emails to ship out, and then we'll get right started. Get you a pencil and your paper. How everybody doing, though? How's everybody doing today? Peace and love to everyone here on TikTok, on my Facebook page, on YouTube. Peace and love to everyone. I didn't get a chance to read everyone's name, but peace and love and light to everyone. So let's give me one hot second. And we're going to get to it. I hope everybody got their papers and their pencils. I'm going to illuminate something. I'm going to illuminate this metaphysical reference book for those that's on a spiritual path. And I'm going to kind of pick off where I left off. So be patient. And I'm going to kind of move around kind of fast because I already did this speaking earlier. I want to highlight some things. So just be patient for me. I'm just waiting for this email to come through. How's everybody doing? This damn cold weather got to me, boy, up here in Michigan. I'm trying to tell you. Coming from 80 and 90-degree weather, it'd be a mug on my sinus. And every time I come home, everybody be like, I done got spoiled from being in that sun all day, getting that natural vitamin D from the sun. I tell everybody that we sun-kissed. We not sun-cursed. We sun-kissed. We are sun-kissed people, y'all. And words are spells. And we cast a spell on ourselves. And we have to come from amongst that spell of what? Understanding. That's how you break the spell. So I'm going to break a little bit of the spells in a second. So I hope y'all getting y'all pencil and paper. Can you hit that light for me, please? Yeah, that light. Yeah, thank you. Yep. Cool, that'll work. First off, I want to say peace. Peace. More peace and more peace and more peace. Oh, I forgot to hit it, my fault. But I always like to illuminate documents and things that a lot of our people they might have or you might misquote. But I'm here to share some things with you, to give you something to compare to challenge your understanding. And all you have to do is be in tune, get with me. We're a connection, we're a community. Everything that I speak on, you don't have to go nowhere else and get it. I have the information for you. That's what a walking library does. That's what a sensei, that's what a shaman, that's what a medicine man does. He teaches the 1, 2, 3s, the ABCs, the mathematics, the multiplication, the addition, the subtraction, the linguistics, the connotation, the denotation, the objective, the subjective, linguistics. All that must be taught. But I spoke of some things previously, and I like to gather and compile different pieces of wisdom. So as I'm going, I'm going to be quoting some references, and you can write these references down for your study. So I always like to talk about the world and beyond is ruled by symbols. When I talk about signs and symbols of the primordial man, that's a book by Albert Churchward. You talk about these Kemetic signs and symbols. A lot of times it's misquoted as hermetic. But the Bible, when you stay in this context, don't go out of context, it's a collection of scriptures written through the power of symbology. Now, we know the biblical scriptures is written in analogy, parable, and symbology. I'm not here to argue with no one religious perspective, because if we're going to deal with scholarship, when we deal with the origin of things, everything can be illuminated. That's why I tell everyone, when you're dealing with me, I'm not orthodox. I understand all the religious rights. We're not here to have a dogmatic, argument. That's not my mission. So the Old Testament in this context equals old consciousness. aka the left side of the brain. And the New Testament, in this context, when I'm dealing with metaphysics, it equals the new consciousness, the right side of the brain. And in this context, in the Jewish, or the Jews per se, in the Bible, the genetic principles, representation of the elements, and what will they become in life when I talk about the Sephirots. History equals so-called records of the past. Meditation, we talk about, is something that's very, very important when we see how things are spelled. When we talk about the Kabbalah, we talk about science dealing with the body. This cross, in this context, we're talking about the body of the four elements: fire, earth, air, river, things that we can agree on. The light, we're talking about realization of what the creator can potentially be. What God, what the generator, operator, destroyer, what it can be, what you and I can be. So when I talk about the perfect penta, or the so-called five-pointed star, the body. The wings equals the soul, or spirituality. The rose equals the soul, for my Rose and Cross brothers. I'm telling you, man, we have to remove the veil. My brothers that took oath, I love y'all, but it's a higher science that must be dealt with. So in this context, when we say priest, priesthood, it equals the keepers of traditions, not revealers of truth, but keepers of tradition. What do you mean? Somebody taught you this, or somebody said to do this, or tradition. If a young woman or older woman is cutting the turkey in half, she's doing that based on tradition, what she saw Big Mama do back in the day, because they didn't have big conventional ovens and they didn't have those big trays to do these things. Now you can cook a whole turkey in the oven. If you cutting the turkey in half, that's a tradition. And a lot of things people do is based on what? Tradition, with all due respect. So I'm just doing the highlight, because I'm gonna jump a little bit. But even when I talk about the Masonic grip, that's signs of communicating between those form of initiates and fraternal brothers and sisters. So when I talk about metaphysics, that's the branch of philosophy that investigates the principles of reality. So the universe is composed of 90% of dark matter. So when we talk about this nine in this context, the brother, the sisterhood of man, or the cosmic oneness of the universe, is accomplished artists and great thinkers who are inspired by universal truth, the circle and the dot, the 6 and the 9 ether, or the mother's womb. When I say that white tassel, that white fence with the gold tassel represents our stars of the east. It represents you, that Monday ball. And if you don't have self-knowledge, it shows that you can be what? Easily manipulated. I tell my brothers and sisters, this self-knowledge will help you walk erect. And if you don't have self-knowledge of yourself, you will not know, in a sense, who you really are. And the two parts of a whole with you that you must know and understand overall is the indigenous man and woman that have always been part of you. And we are here to recreate or bring back the true kingdom, the kingdom of spirit, the balanced forces that we call Mayat, or Isfet, or Hanab Ku. And know that the creator, which we call today God, for a lack of a better term, is the creative power, the mind of God within you, the universal all, the all in all. And when it comes to understanding consciousness, when I talk about exoteric equals the external aspects of the base knowledge, while the esoteric, the deeper or internal aspects of universal knowledge. It is for no one to claim, or it belongs to no any group. But when we talk about the esoteric knowledge, it's that which is specialized or advanced in nature, only available to a narrow circle of enlightened individuals or highly educated people. You can be self-educated, but it's a system of wisdom. Just like when I deal with the cipher of the 13, Sephira, per se, when the Y, the Atzut, is the fire site, the H, the Bra, the air, the hearing, the W, the water, the Th, the H is the earth, the smell. So when we deal with the Hebrew or the Kemetu, the term for fire language, the truth is that the pyramids are a symbol of musical instruments used to maintain and also stabilize the harmony of the planet, even when we talk about the Ankh and those specific powers that they were used for. You know, when we talk about things, when I come from this metaphysical context of making it universal, all is mind, and mind is movement, and it becomes sound, light, geometry, and numbers. Right? Agreeable, disagreeable, two parts of a universal whole that is always trying to surpass itself in its evolutionary cycle. And the two cannot be separate. You don't cut a part of yourself off of consciousness. That pendulum swings the same way to the left as it does to the right. I am that I am, or I will be what I will to be. And a concept of positive and negative per se, or agreeable and disagreeable per se, good versus evil per se, is the most simplified attempt at universal understanding. It's the basic to atomic structure, as well as the principles of morality, religion, social order, even in numerology and the occult, attempts to measure man in relation to the total mysterious universe. When I quote things from The Secrets of Numbers, on page 12, these forces are always complementary. These forces are not human, they are cosmic. These were different energies. Agreeable and disagreeable are energies. The only evil that exists is your own ego. So don't get locked down to one area of study. Myself, that's a depth. We don't gravitate to one science where we miss the essence of the rest. We're not biased in our understanding. The heart center that corresponds to the three phases of darkness, or a state without shape or form, or the none, equals the cosmic waters. Remember, with all due respect, that a Mason breaks down as a child of the sun. Remember, 1 is in the mind of man, 2 is the womb of woman. So in this context, when I talk about the Afra equals the flesh of Ra, or the flesh, or we like to say the concept of the gift of the creator within you and I. So in this concept, when I say Africa, the great ancestral body of Ra inside the mother's womb. And from the Met to Netter, the AF, the F, equals the body, spirit, spiritual body, also the mother's womb. The RI, the Rai, or the Ray, the RE, or the RA, equals the life force, that vibration, the state of being. Entrance, the doorway, the entrance of a sacred temple. And the Ka equals the divine essence, the spirit of God within man, within woman. So when we talk about numbers, it equals what? Reformation of old and outdated ideas. When I quote from the Temple of Man on page 67, for Western man, it has become very difficult to discern the truth from the false. And so he attaches all value to the product of their work, which, however, contributes absolutely nothing to his reality. That is, to the widening of his consciousness and aim of his existence. He has forgotten that it is only the love that he puts into his work, and only the quest to live at one with life of the material he fashions, which can argument his humanness. I also can quote page 98. Numbers are then no longer merely notations that, how can I say, designate quantities, but the expression of living functions. What am I saying? Each number has a personality, and each personality has what? 2 sides, belonging what? To the one. And because there is a creative function definable at this origin, everything should be able to be resolved again by what? That same function. And this then is the theory of numbers and the only true philosophy. All the rest is but imaginary projection. Right? I come from some scrolls, scroll 3, in the sacred records of Atum Ra, or Atum Ra, or however you want to pronunciate it, the AKA the Black Book. I'm quoting from pages 257 and 258. Too many such as the Freemason Shriner Knights of Columbus, Alhambra, Rosicrucians, Theosophical Society, Astera, and their many sub-chapters and degrees depend on geometric mathematics as the keys to their secrets. That adds up to no more than simple geometry. When I quote from the secret degrees and studies of the FC on page 107, but Masonry stresses the need for knowledge in the fifth science, which is geometry. This is no longer a secret. It cannot be hid because it is written in the structure of all things. I also can quote from the Temple of Man, page 46. Esotericism should not be understood as a secret writing, but rather as the spirit of the letter. That is to say, that which cannot be transcribed clearly, not because there is any desire to conceal, but because of the cerebral intellect's inaptitude for comprehending it. So when we stay in the metaphysical, darkness equals the light that the human brain cannot comprehend. Our great brother Bobby Hemmett quoted us these things. A lot of this stuff comes from different wisdoms. When people try to compare our prophets that within the flesh, like Bobby Hemmett and C. Freeman L., to try to say this one is that one, there's no comparing. They're both our tools in the toolbox. Just like we have great scholars before us. We don't just gravitate to one, we have a plethora. It just so happened that the secrets, they are bound by oath to keep secret. Just so happened to be the truth to free you and I from our grave of ignorance. You know? I mean, even Elijah Muhammad in one of his books, The Secrets of Masonry. I'm not saying he wrote it or nothing, but I'm just quoting different things for you, just to give you a crash course. The Craft and Crescent, Freemasonry and the Misnomer Black Muslim Movement in America by Michael R. Scheidier, page 18. There are 4 reasons why Masons keep the secret a secret. Number uno, knowledge for the wrong reason can be used as a destructive tool. That's why our Kemetic ancestors put us through a rite of passage. It was a way of preventing misuse of the knowledge. It was a way of preserving the tradition through the ages. In relation to European, Albion, Tralodite, whatever you want to call it, that mindset, they are afraid that once you rediscover the truth, those individuals may lose control. And people in secret orders for various reasons like the power trip per se, but not all of them, because I know a lot. I know a lot. A lot of my professors were Scottish Rite Masons. I shared the Scottish Rite Mason giving credit to the Noble Drew Ali on his 135th birthday on my YouTube channel. You know? But knowledge only belongs to the Creator and no one else. No one has bragging rights over wisdom, over knowledge. And no disrespect when I say things, my professors will tell you, when we come from the Anglo-Saxon dictionary and we best be honest and deal with specifics and things like that, they can't go past 33 degrees of knowledge because of with no disrespect, because of a certain thing, because of a certain pineal gland. When we dealing with the metaphysics, it's like a calcification. We dealing with metaphysics. We're not dealing with disrespect. And a lot of times this prevent an individual from seeing beyond the literal. Whereas a lot of things is tradition, is original, uncorrupted, the mindset, The 360 to 720. Remember when I say 360 is just the sum total of material wisdom, but 720 is the total sum of both what? Material and spiritual wisdom. The universal knowledge, something that must be experienced. And as there is not a soul that knows everything for sure, as all people that are knowledgeable have something to contribute to the whole. You and all of us, we all have something to contribute to this whole. That's why you're here. That's why I'm doing this work. That's why I need y'all help. And for them to give away the secret was to give away the mystery and nothing more. It's something that cannot be told. It has to be experienced. And the secret was knowledge. Your knowledge concealing their teachings through the numerical values. When I talk about Maserat in the biblical scriptures, when they say the Bible don't talk about the constellations and the zodiac, yes it do. Research Maserat in your biblical scripture, and then you come back to me and be like, well, wait a minute, yeah. Pure thought cannot be received by the unprepared mind. And the light of pure thought is too strong for the unprepared man's eyes, especially when he sees it for the first time. I'm going to quote another book, The Mysterious Sphinx, on page 6 by Hilton Hotima. I'm giving you references so you can research things as you go along. The secret is to know. The secret is that all comes from you and I. And the rights that they go through are for them and for them only, with all due respect. You only need to understand the underlying principles. That's why I tell my brothers and sisters, come home. No one have to accept you. You're never going to be accepted. Stop wanting acceptance, and we have our own charter. Remember, in the old days, each clan taught a specific discipline, varying from masonry, divination, astronomy, ancestor worship, Kabbalah, yoga, herbal medicine, energy flow, and it goes on and on. The 12 African spirits. Indigenous peoples are keepers of sacred rites that are passed down generation after generation. Each initiate is a keeper of knowledge that is sacred to him or her. This is what I try to tell my brothers, man. We're not here to X each other out. We're supposed to be bringing people with these expertise on pedestals. Everybody that have their podcast is bring it on. We should be bringing things to a light, doing things the right way. It's a lot of closed communities today that maintain these sacred rites. And the keeping of these secrets for the other man was to prevent the so-called black man, that family, from finding the knowledge. All knowledge comes from within. All fertility symbols has two meanings. All fertility symbols has two meanings. A creative principle, a destructive principle. When you look at the fossil skull of the Neanderthal man, all those thousands of years old indicate that they had larger brains, and the brains was heavier than that of the so-called modern man. When we talk about things, when we quote African Holistic Health by Lidela Africa, when we talk about the Masonic institution, is a fragment piece of consciousness that is part of a whole organism within our astrological solar system. Wisdom is associated with the nonverbal right hemisphere of your hippocampus or your brain, while understanding is associated with the verbal left hemisphere of the brain. And understanding involves verbal thought. Wisdom is pure nonverbal thought, and understanding is the level where separation and division exists. And wisdom is the level where all men and women together are one. Right? Right? It is only below the levels of wisdom that people are separated into different individuals. Think about we fail based upon our misuse of the Ankh, this power that's when we created this so-called lower self, or the so-called with the horns, the spooky thing, In this context, when we say things that we say spooky, we say things can be a breakdown of melanin. We talk about albino and all these things. It's something, a breakdown of melanin. Man, it's so much stuff that we have to research. The story of Atom and the Helophatin, the Enad. When you research these things, and in this context, and don't go out of context. In this context, when we say 666, the number of the so-called beast per se, and when we say a genetic code for carbon, a genetic code for carbon is 6 protons, 6 electrons, and 6 neutrons. It is the nu. As in its context, 666 is the foundation number of creation. Then there is 777 and 888, representing what? Transcendent and Godhood. And it's obvious that civilization and religion existed long before the times of Menes, but no other record has survived. And the theology of sex by Sabrina Asset. I'm giving you reference. Brothers and sisters, what I'm saying is when we able to sit down with reason, with understanding, with truth, and to understand the mysteries of the Bible, you need to study the Egyptian teachings. Because most of our hidden, marvelous Judeo-Christian wisdom that are contained in the scriptures were transmitted to us by the priests of Ra from Egypt. I mean, it's just what it is. And every scholar understands what I'm saying. The story of Moses, so-called Jacob, Joseph, so-called Jesus, and so many others in the Bible is tied to Egypt. And we need to return to the original teachings because it's there, which we unalterably carved out of the walls of various tombs and pyramids long before we knew anything about, ethnic divisions of the world. And the only way to decipher a true scientific meaning to the ancient wisdom is to compare the oldest teachings of the world, which are the Egyptian and the Hindu myths. It's just what it is. From Sacred Cosmic Marriage, Secrets of the Egyptian Mystery School teachings by Willie Gasper, the Gnostic teachings of Jesus Christ. The Gnostic teachings of Jesus Christ teaches that he doesn't want us to fear the all, and he does not control us or demand obedience to a church or a doctrine. Jesus did not believe nor teach anything about a Satan. Church fathers made that up, as well as parts of the New Testament, and the evidence of this is supported in the Nag Hammadi scrolls, namely a God and a church which promotes its own rules and doctrines and enslaves its members to adhere to them. Know that all scriptures are talking about your internal organs, your mechanisms, and the story teaches you to be one with your higher self. And from the historical to the biblical, to the metaphysical, and to the astrological. And the English names of the Bible are not translations of the Hebrew Bible. Instead, they are based on Greek names created for the Septuagint, for that Bible, or the Tanakh per se. But there's nothing in the Bible that can teach men to place women on equal level with themselves, which, as we can show earlier, is a prime requirement for a healthy partnership and marriage in this case. Instead, we find just the opposite. As the most influential guide to the most Westerners, the Bible has, by omission and commission, laid the foundations for men's disrespect to women today. Think about what I'm saying, and use for other atrocities. Page 35, an Afrocentric guide to a spiritual union. Sa, Ra, Asar, Ra equals the son and daughter of God. Sitat or Sitat Neter, or the Tantra. You'll hear Barbie Hemmett talk about Tantra magic a lot. Fermeta Neter, the Shata, the incomprehensible, the mystery, the very deep and profound, The ought equals the act of being mysterious. So when we talk about the shet or the set, ought, netter, the ancient African term, the Egyptian mysteries, was a universal teaching for any cosmic mind that was imbalanced and was ready to receive information in general. Western culture and the so-called Egyptian mysteries family was often seen as something mysterious and occult. When we talk about the Smai-Tawi, this form of yoga, to unite the andrenius, the oneness, the whole, the complete, return to the source, the unifier of the two lands. And so then when we talk about the pineal gland, a corollary notion was that clarification of the pineal caused psychiatric disease, which was a concept that provided support for those who considered psychotic behavior to be rampant. Now remember, man, how can I say, in different people, in those calcified pineal glands are non-functioning. Individuals containing low levels of melanin will behave in a certain manner. This is just scientific. Melanin gives humans ability to feel because it is the absorber of all frequencies of energy, like having, doing your thing. When I talk about the Kundalini rising per se, I'm telling you, man, we can connect all the science. Just like the Olmec head, the portrait of an ancient man. When you look at it, you be like, well, this look like somebody. Yes. Those featuring a certain type of individual. Brothers and sisters, knowledge is the way of life. Watch as I get y'all to an area. Let me take you to a certain degree of wisdom. When we talk about energy, like it's 3 types of energy: organic, magnetic, electric. The lowest of all energies. So when we talk about the feminine principle is the initiator into the higher realms of consciousness, the principle of harmony among the dogons. A lot of this strongly oriented toward harmony. This harmony is reflected in many of the rituals, which we talk about the rites of passage, the Mayat culture. Example, the woman prays the man, and the man gives thanks to the woman, aka the fellow goddesses, and the young express appreciation for the old or the wise elders, and the old recognize the contributions of the young. So what I'm talking about is a system of everything. When I say, listen, it's a part of science that's not being taught. It's a certain symbology. Just like when I talk about, I'll just say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Because I'm just going through notes. And I talk about the esoteric symbolism of the number 7, the spine, the backbone of Osiris, the Masonic pillar. What you mean? Yes, this is the Masonic pillar. For children sucking the breast helps the baby to what? Enhance intelligence. So when I come from the black book scroll, it's the less known fact that was best kept secret by the light. That is that the true God is the mother. And a lot of stuff I'll show you. I did a lecture when I was coming from the Sibyls, something that was hidden in the Catholic Church, the Mami Waters and the Sibyls. I can show you all the Moorish heads and all this stuff. I can show you a history that was buried in a shallow grave, but not buried, but it's there. And it's just what it is. William Preston, who lived in England during the later half of the 18th century, said that knowledge was the universal solution for the problem in the world, bringing light to a candidate by actual educating him. And we learn in our craftsmanship, a lot of people call it Freemasonry, that knowledge is the answer to all things. In pre-Islamic Arabia, Allah was not the sole divinity, having associates and companions, sons and daughters, principals. This multi-orgasmic energy, which can last as long as 14 hours after lovemaking, nourishes the body and changes your brain. Hold on, y'all. Let me blow my nose. Yep. A lot of these things that I talk about is just reintroducing wisdom, reintroducing science to the individual. Let me move around. Let me get to okay, this is where I want to get to. So, with all due respect, in Masonry, there is no secret about the aims or principles, all representing a rite of passage and spiritual growth. So, just like in our Moore's Quran in chapter 5, the tools in the toolbox, the plum by the junior warden symbolizes an upright life. The level by the senior warden is a symbol of equality. The square is worn by the master of the temple and symbolizes morality. So we deal with the pillars of the temple, Boaz and Hakim, are which play so important a part in the craft of masonry. Our symbols which occur in the Jewish Kabbalah, where they are described as two of the 10 sephirots. On page 207, the secret societies and subversive movements by the Nista H. Webster. And you can also see the 13 Masonic secrets, another a document that I have. But Boaz and Hakim symbolize unity or unify your brain mechanism when we deal with the metaphysics, uniting Asar and Aset, also known as Shiva and Skati or Shakti. And the game of life is to become what? Generator, operator, and destroyer. In the words of our elder Bobby Hemmett, to open the mouth of the creator. So when we deal with the Matkut and the Shekinah, or the Shekinah, we learn that the Jewish mystics inherited and diagrammed what? 10 with 3 of them hidden. When we talk about these aspects of God per se, as a network of the 10 spheres, and called it the what? The tree of life. And the tree of life is a blueprint of the inner workings of the creator, the universe, and the human soul. It is through the female, the feminine aspect of the creator, known as Shekinah, that we can begin to access the power of the creator and the universe within all. In the tree of life, the hidden forces of the flow in the temple of God. And so we soon begin to realize the hidden personalities of the Sifra in the Kabbalah in relations to the principles of the 3 in 1, or the unity. And when trying to get closer to that God essence, when they say the Trinity, but I say the unity, being dual, both male and female, in this context, the black dot of infinite consciousness, or the inner knowledge of knowing oneself. Isn't this the most important lesson of all? To know oneself? Isn't it written, he or she who knows oneself knows God? Uniting the pillars of judgment and mercy, once we understand this with wisdom and understanding and truth, that's when we discover or resurrect the mother and father of the kingdom. Knowing that the scripture is not a book, but the scripture is in you and I. We've been taught wrong. The one was never supposed to end anything. It was all another system of control when we just talk about the matrix. We talk about the Makiru, the Ma equals the Christ, and then the Ma'at Kiru equals the feminine or the Sophia. And then when we say the Christ in this context, it equals the liberator. So when we deal with the Sophia in this context, it's the goddess who natures man with what? Her wisdom, such as the earth or the womb or the wooniverse, the womb. So in the context of Jesus crucified on the cross, it equals the light became matter, the spirit descending into the physical. Jesus is the archetype for God or the spirit manifest on earth, or the process of suns becoming planets or spiritual beings materializing into the physical life form. And the symbol of Jesus per se, brothers and sisters, on the cross simply expresses the whole process of creating and destroying. And Jesus is the I am that will be on the interpretation of matter being what? Spiritualized by the divine spirit. And all of the great heroes, the messiahs, are representations of the sun falling into matter. If you stay in the metaphysics of what I'm saying, when we deal with the fall equals, that's the spirit fell into matter and becomes the source of all evil according to the so-called Christian viewpoint. Angels in the Bible per se, that's a metaphor for an angle or a degree of information as it descends from the spiritual to the physical. The Leviathan equals the female principle. The behemoth equals the male principle. The Leviathan and the behemoth are the yin and the yang. Stay with me. And then the compass in this context is wisdom. The square is knowledge. So when we're dealing with the Gnostic, it equals what? The knower of truth. And in this concept, the letter G, per se, understanding, generativity, having the ability to originate, produce, procreate, standing for the principle of what? Generativity, the power to reproduce, bringing forth life. The letter G, or geometry, is symbolic of Ra and the life force, the life-giving fire, the eternal flame, or the never-ending flame, the sun, the solar plex, or the soul center, or the heart chakra, representing the male and the female reproductive organs. And this is why it's so important to understand your sexuality. It's all written in the stars. God equals dual. When we say YHWH or YHVH, because you know they say Jehovah, but we know it's Yahweh. So I'll do this just for speaking sake. I say YHVH, that equals dual. And the number 4, the foundation to everything, and in all Native American cultures. So when we deal with principle of the shrine, the sword equals the masculine energy, the words of power, for example, the double-edged sword. So when we dealing with the star and the crescent, we dealing with the mother's womb and what? Feminine energy. The angels and demons equals what? Higher and lower self. So when people talk about things, we should be able to have a real conversation because the worship of Serapis, with all due respect, they say that's the Jesus myth. Serapis, Egypt, circa 325 BCE. Serapis Christos, Greco-Roman, 135 BCE. You can research what I'm saying. Worshippers of Serapis called themselves bishops of Christ. Egypt, which you commanded to me, my dearest Servanius, I have found to be wholly fickle, inconsistent, and continually waft about every breath of fame. The worshippers of Serapis here are called Christians, and those who are devoted to the god Serapis, I find, call themselves bishops of Christ. Hardened to Servanus, 134 AD. The Asans, Serapis, I quote, what was so shocking to the scholars who examined the ancient documents was a community of people practicing Christianity or something very close to it for at least 200 years before the time of Christ. And evidence of this is seen in the Dead Sea Scrolls, where its contents were suppressed by the church. Joshua Christos of the Coptic Church, the embarrassing fact that Jesus was actually executed as a political offender. Christ was condemned to death by the Jews as a political offender. The trials of Jesus, the popular motion for a, no disrespect, a other Christ is a myth, no disrespect. But the historical Jesus, as there was many of them, was from a certain you. You can research African Origins of Christianity, part 1 and 2. The Star Sigers The Virgo equals the sun equals Jesus per se. So when we say star origins equals the three kings, which is no other than what? Cosmological science. And the higher creates the lower. And man did not come from the ape, because the ape is still an ape. So when we talk about key points, as we go on with a little bit more higher wisdom, the Egyptian mysteries were the center of organized culture, and the esoteric philosophy of the great mysteries of stolen legacy, and these students had to submit to many years of tests and ordeals. That's why I say man creates miracles by helping himself, not by no one getting us caught up. And symbolically, the initiates are conditioned towards being militants. And when I say militants, to understanding, to wisdom. Think about this. The order was specifically Kemetic, teaching the arts, alchemy, the Kabbalah, and the magic of Hermes, also the principles of the occult. So when I talk about Jesus in its context, Jesus personifies the sun of our universe, while his father is only the personification of an ancient symbol. Stay with me. Stay in context. Now, when you put them together, per se, you will see that Serapis Christus became Jesus Christ. By who? Emperor Constantine. When? In year 325 AD. And in reality, the story of, in this context, of Jesus portrayed in the Gospels is nearly identical to that of the early saviors, like Krishna and Horus, and the Christ conspiracy. With all due respect, Corinthians 6 and 19 and 3 and 16, what? Know ye not that your body is what? The temple of the Holy Ghost, which is in you, which have God, and ye not have your own. So when I talk to my brothers in truth, because I'm a traveler, I travel all over. So when I bring people up and illuminate things, a lot of brothers in the Blue Lodge and Freemasonry relate to the first degree of the order. And the first degree in the craft signifies by which each candidate ascends from a lower to a higher condition of knowledge or awareness per se. So when I talk about things, we don't have to stay too far in things. We're going to continue to move along. So when I talk about the Kabbalah, that's the Greek word for the Kabbalah. The Kabbalah has 7 keys, aka chakras, right? And the Kabbalah is principles of the occult, the Kemetic science, which is a form of alchemy. And Gotia, aka the black magic, aka magical art, aka the magic of Hermes. The Kabbalah equal rites of passage systems. And man is a fragmented piece of consciousness. And it's suffering that causes the wideness of man's consciousness. So when I quote from the Temple of Man on page 37, the author still remains unknown to the general public in the United States, despite the fact that 7 of his works are currently available in English, and I have them all. But the purpose of the rites of passage is to transmit and translate what? The Ma'at culture. Dr. Layla Africa, the first rough Asler, symbolic of a rough crude stone, the uneducated man, the man unaware of his or her potential. The second perfect Aslar, the symbol of the educated man or woman who has been taught by those more knowledgeable than him or herself. The third Trestel board, symbol of natural and moral law, used by the working master. The master equals the working man, which is a symbol of what? Perfection. Symbolically, a spiritual board, a divine plan to lay out the plans to build a temple, a spiritual temple. So when I deal with the occult triad, the Kabbalah is a form of application, which is an oral tradition. So when I talk about masonry, it can be creation, which is stone building. When I deal with Tantra, liberation, that's astro, that's spiritual science. So when we combine together to create the harmonious triad, the melanin and the ether, the science of what? Electromagnesium. And the ether is a class of organic compounds, the substance through which electromagnetic waves travel. And this also happens when doing the adult. Think about what I'm saying. And as melanin acts as a semiconductor to transform and transfer what? Energy. And when you know this, electromagnesium is the study of the electromagnetic field, also known as the sexual energies per se, a force of particles that possess the property of electric charge and is in turn affected by the presence and motion of these particles, right? Brothers and sisters, when you see my brothers and sisters, when we wear the fez, because the fez is so holy and so prophetic, especially for us as brothers and sisters. The fez that's not defiled, but the fez is a phallic symbol in its context, symbolizing fertility, procreation, regeneration, but most of all, Osiris, the private. Also the circle and dot as a sun symbol, which heavily influenced the Taino culture. But the confusion to this is when people talk or hear about the fez is mostly the esoteric, and not that many people go in depth into the historical aspect. You have to remember everything has two sides, and later on in history for political agendas, it was used for that purpose, conquest and war. So it's obvious that we can see the relationships and make some comparison. But as I quote, as a phallic symbol, the fez is a representation of Osiris, as he 360 degrees of knowledge into the womb of his wife Aset. As a flower sprouts, it loses its what? Original essence, but the principle never changes. Remember, even when we talk about the Ottoman Turks adopted the fez from the Greeks, who were students of the Egyptian mystery schools. No disrespect. European tribes to invade, such as the Hyksos, the Phoenicians, the Greeks, the Persians, Romans, and even later European tribes that proceeded after. The German, the Gothic, they are a recessive people. Hitler used the fez. Leopold used the fez, part of his regiment in the Congo. So when we talk about these concepts, y'all, when we illuminate, I got a little bit more time. And when we have these conversations on bringing our brothers and sisters up, especially my brothers and sisters that took an oath, I love you all. It's just what it is. Truth has no sides. But Boaz and Hakim, the esoteric male and female elements, the pillars of the temple, are both represented as the mother and father. Remember, Adam and Eve equals the esoteric code for the primordial pair, which they are none other than principles for enlightenment. If you with me, the doorways to the temple of Waset represent the pillars of the temple of Boaz and Hakim. You got to remember that, symbolizing the opening of the legs of the African woman, and later, what? The Masonic Hall, symbolic of the gates of heaven, aka the African woman. With all due respect, nature or reality consists of the properties, the positive and the negative. You can research that on Stolen Legacy by George G.M. James. So when we talk about entrance to the temple, in the Hebrew Old Testament, the pillars are two people, which was Boaz and Hakim. In the Greek New Testament, they are John of Zechariah and John of Zebedee. In the Quran, they are Michael and Gabriel. The two pillars are Boaz, strength, and Hakim, established, are the two pillars of Horus and Set, the oblique needles of the opposing forces of nature, symbols of the stability and of the stability and the support of the four corners when we talk about north, south, east, and west. And they represent the entrance of the temple of Boaz. And in him, her, is what? Strength. As in spiritual strength. Hakim, she shall establish a sign of establishing order under Mayat. And it was said that if you pass these pillars with understanding, you have learned that power without control, as in relationships, is dangerous. Research Kings, chapter 7, verse 21. And Boaz to the right, and the pillar is power. Hakim left is choice or control, and the power to choose what kind of destiny you will live out. And this signified that you were no longer a youth. Remember, when I was a child, I acted like a child, I thought like a child. But when I became a man, I put away what? All childish ways. But a man, when passing through the pillars, as in the sexual act per se, and these are the characters, the principles that represented the brothers, the sisterhood in Freemasonry. Peace, Noble Malik. Peace and love to you, brother. I know you had safe travels. I didn't get to talk to you. When I talk about the degree states, oh yeah, we got a little more time. You start off, and most brothers start off in the blue lodge, in the blue-blooded, and then become red blood. You start in the blue lodge and on up to the red. And as you transfer from human beast to man, homo to homo erectus, to homo sapien, and then to Elohim, homo spiritus, this signifies a rites of passage from an unconscious being, unknown, to a self-conscious and knowing being. And they are simply passage that one must go to understand, to pass on to manhood, to womanhood. You know? Remember, brothers and sisters, even different degrees, I'm always going to be honest and tell the truth, because we have to, because there's nothing to be afraid of. Most cultures in Africa, Asia, India, and many parts of Europe, like Sweden, when at the age of 13, one becomes a man or a woman. And a sanctuary and at Helophius, in which the sun god was worshipped, under the form of a stone, which resembled in a shape, and a tourniquet obelisk, which is Osiris, you know what. Think about what I'm saying, family. I'm resurrecting us. You know? I'm resurrecting our teachers. We should all be sharing it, especially if we enlightened ones. The tree of life symbolizes the knowledge of how to regain and retain your spiritual identity and immortality. So one of the secrets or sacredness is we had to descend first to actually allow other life forms to manifest on this plane. And we carry the genetic marker for all spiritual entities to manifest. And it's a whole process of becoming. So when I give you an example of this is seen on the tree of life, it's used as a gateway to ascend and descend all at once. And without it, all ancient people would never be able to express their greatness. And that's why I found the tree of life to be so important, to study such as a divine plan, to know what you are here to do. Because you can't take nothing with you. And without it, we would never know where we're going, yet alone know where we came from. And it's simply used as a source of reference. And we as spiritual people come from different planets and star constellations. It's in your Bible. We divine. We are divine people having a divine experience. Just as the Creator does, we also create and destroy. And a very good example of this is Jacob's ladder. So always pay attention to the symbology. Remember, the tree of life equals the pea gland of the middle of the garden. When you read in Genesis, the tree of good and evil, stay in the metaphysical realm, because we illuminate something. The tree of knowledge of good and evil symbolizes an understanding of ethics and justice. The tree of knowledge also represents sexuality. When I reference other books, like for instance, 47, The Gods of Eden by William Bramley, we soon begin to realize that the hidden personalities of the Sephiroth in the Kabbalah in relation to the principles of the three in one, or the unity, when trying to get closer to God. It is the divine, they say Trinity, but we know better, being dual, male and female, the black da'at, the stargate, the dark vector, the infinite consciousness, or the inner knowledge of knowing oneself. Isn't this the most important lesson? To know yourself. Isn't it written that he or she who knows oneself knows God? Uniting the pillars of judgment and mercy. And once we understand this with wisdom, that's when we rediscover the mother and father. It's so much stuff, like, brothers and sisters, it's a map called the Piri Reis, the P-I-R-I-R-E-I-S map. It's noteworthy for its depiction of a southern landmass that some controversially claim is evidence for early awareness of the existence of America. The Piri or the Piri Reis map is currently located in the library of the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul, Turkey, but it's not usually on display to the public. I got it. You can research it too. It's so much, y'all, that I can show y'all in real life. But so when we talk about like different rites and passages, man, and symbols of prophets, all that stuff, this stuff symbolizes man. The prophets are based on mythological figures, with all due respect. When you are an initiate, there are only symbols that reside within you. The many gods is how God existed. Remember the other day, I broke down all the so-called gods in the Bible, Jehovah this, that, and the other. It's the same thing, but with the different hats. When that entity is working in the different manifestations, it's no different. It's just operating in a manifestation. Same entity, change the hat, you can put another one on when you research what I'm saying, if you understand what I'm saying. The Bible, the spiritual scripture representing the blueprint of the human body, divided into 12 parts. Its early form is originally associated with astrology. Later worshipers associated it with evil, falsehood, but originally a book with spiritual principles and allegories. Later the Bible was mistakenly taken as an actual history book. But the Bible is a message to the spirit with principles that one must learn from to learn and grow, not to be taken as something literal. There was never a historical bondage in Egypt. None of it was historical. And the Bible is an esoteric book. It has nothing to do with, no disrespect, Europeans. With all due respect, it don't. Revelation is a message from God, the Creator, God giving humanity, man and woman, a message. So when we say history, what actually happened historically as it took place, that's what we have to talk about. We have to separate the myth from history and deal with the science of the soul and get out of the emotional thing. And you have to separate the myth from reality. So when I deal with science, it equals seeing spiritually. Spirituality is unseen science examples. I have my own understanding. You have to find yours. Material things are temporary, but spiritual things are eternal. And when the mind of man is focused on material or on materiality and on its objects and aims, the faculties are not developed along permanent lines. And truth reveals to us that every faculty must be used to spiritual ends in order that the law of being may be fulfilled. 1 second. My nose running, y'all. Got a little bit more time. That weather changed. I'm ready to get back in that 90-degree weather, y'all. I'm trying to tell you. But I got about the end of the month. But truth revealed to us that every faculty must be used to spiritual ends in order that the law of being may be fulfilled. You can research this because I always give reference. Research the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary on page 175. Man did not commit a moral sin when they had, when you did that with the lady. That wasn't it. So-called original sin. No. So we never sinned, or we weren't born in no sin. All this explains is how the spirit became trapped and materialized into matter, with all due respect. And the other man, whatever you want to call it, was born in sin only because of the condition he was born in, emerging from the cave or the caveman-like state, ashamed of their own nakedness because they did not understand it. In their time in isolation, served their personal connection with nature, with all due respect. And man did not fall from grace, and there was never a need for someone or an entity outside of yourself to come down and redeem us. You are your own masters. These are just facts. And the teachings in the Bible are nothing more than mythology, historicized per se. And the stories in the Bible are all cosmological in character, with all due respect. And these so-called prophets of the Bible, before they wrote the scriptures, they wrote all different type of adult novels. And how I know? I went to school for what I'm talking about. I got my master's degree in what I'm talking about from a Christian university. I graduated with honors. And evidence of this is at the British Museum in London. All you have to do is research what I'm saying, and you can be like, yeah, the people that wrote this Bible, they wrote all type of adult magazines. You know what I'm talking about, adult? And the 10 Commandments of the Bible is an allegory of the left and the right hemispheres of your hippocampus or your brain. And the king in the middle equals the polarities between Heru and Set. One who has the power and is in control. So when we talk about the matrix per se, my brothers and sisters, that's the human brain or the rational consciousness. So when we talk about this Christian hell, that's an allegory of earth or earthly plane state of existence. So when we talk about Judaism, stay in context, Abraham, Christianity, Jesus Christ, the Holy Bible, the code for a human body, Islam equals Muhammad, Masonry equals what? Haram Abif, Hinduism equals Krishna, all the same person. The sun and the moon equals the mother and the father of the zodiac, and we use sex to raise consciousness, aka bringing forth. Wholeness equals unity, togetherness equals family, oriented, bringing loved ones closer, relationships, organizations, integrity of the people, brings trust, stability equals balance, nurturing and spiritual growth, enlightenment, and more self-awareness. I can give you, read the art of Qi Kong. The key to understanding the symbols is more awareness, when you have a clear understanding of the signs and symbols. And by your nature, you are the masters. Remember, the Mayan and the Oman calendar is dealing with the time cycles and consciousness. Think about what I'm saying. You know? So at the 0 point of the galactic shift, if you're in tune with the seas and things, it will be more in your favor through rituals and through the things that you do. This reality is too chaotic to fix. Focus on yourself and that which is like yourself within you. You must raise your vibration and remember you are God manifest as the creator. You got to remember this. There's so many things that go with life, like the number 13. Excuse me. An astrological symbol, 12 signs, and the sun in relation to the so-called cross in Christianity before motivated by conquest in ancient times represented transcending consciousness or peace to the divine spirit and soul. In the book of Genesis, the tree of knowledge was a tree in the middle of what? The Garden of Eden, right? Genesis 2:9. So the Garden of Eden equals the mind. The tree of knowledge equals the pineal gland. And later we meet the great serpent by the name of Tiamat, also named Papois, later to be found in biblical Leviathan. Remember, the serpent was the symbol of the divine. It's also in the medical field too. When I say the Kundalini rising in the medical fields, you see it rising up. The cosmic image of the so-called tree guarded by the serpent appears on Samaritan seals and Egyptian crowns. Also, Jewish tradition viewed the serpent as sometimes the tree of knowledge itself, as representative of evil and man's evil inclination, right? And the so-called prohibition to eat the forbidden fruit, which was knowledge. Therefore, and I quote, two other serpents, divinities mentioned in Egyptian mythology are Nebuchadnezzar, a serpent with human arms and legs. This fearful god, once he was tamed by Ra, like in the bedroom, became his faithful servant, remember? Life and infinite energy beyond scientific understanding. Now this energy has been transformed into what? A new weapon. Think about what I'm saying. Therefore, the virgin, the so-called, the woman that we want to say that slept around or whatever, and the wife are all synonymous with one and another. Understand, it is this chaos or serpent which must be overcome to create order and maintain life in any meaningful way. I hope y'all staying with me. The serpent in history is an esoteric form of energy. The serpent is the symbol of chaos, which is cosmic energy. The snake is thus seen as a symbol of what? Energy and life. And the wonderful ability of the serpent to shed its skin and so renew its youth makes it the master of what? The secret of death and rebirth. The serpent as divinity. Are y'all with me? Be ye therefore wise serpents. Matthew 10 and 16. The Leviathan, aka from Hebrew, twisted coil. The Nehebuk, the Kundalini force, the God force, the Anu, the Ra, the Aneli, the Asar, the Inki equals Set, Asar, and a Set equals Cain and Abel. Genesis chapter 4. Jacob and Esau, Genesis chapter 25. Ishmael and Esau, Genesis chapter 16. Solomon and Adonijah, 1 Kings, or Adonijah, the Luciferian conspiracy. Even other writers, like I quote everything like Dr. York. I don't care what people did, that's what they did. But the tablets, I know where all the wisdom come from. So I can quote certain things and say people had these things. When people say that this actually exists, that these figures exist, hey, there's no credible evidence for the existence of any of them outside the biblical text. That's why when people say somebody is born of this and that and the other, we know the people, mothers and fathers. The whole Bible and the Quran concept, as I state, when we talk about origin, we're not gonna have an argument over a discussion of that. These things were used to enslave individuals unknowingly by disagreeable, malevolent individuals. You can find these people in Egypt. It's so much, man, that I want to talk about when I say we have to bring ourselves up. We have to share these teachings. It's like when we talk about God's holy temple. It's so much, man. 1 Corinthians chapter 3, 16. Know ye not that ye are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwell in you? In the lost books of the Bible, second book of Clement, chapter 4, verse 2. We must therefore keep our flesh as the temple of God. This passionate and important text shows even more clearly that the religion of the goddess, which is tied to the cycle of the seasons, the phases of the moon, and the fertility of the earth, was the original religion of humanity, the great cosmic mother. Even when I talk about the symbols of Mami Waters that the Catholic Church hid, y'all have to have that. When I tell people, I say, man, you have no idea. In the early days of dynastic Egypt. A priest was far more than a pharaonic puppet. There is nothing in our modern world that exactly mirrors the functions when you was in the museum, when we did this in real life. Because brothers that went to seminary, man, you just gonna have to tell the truth that you're not telling the truth. That's all. It can be easily anything that a person has been told in seminary, especially if they look like me, you're gonna have to just come out and say, man, what you teaching is folly, because it can easily be proven that it's folly. You know? Even the ancient Mexicans said that their forefathers came from the east, which really means from the Atlantic. And all these people were of the Atlantic, the Atlantis, the African origin, from the distant past. Even it's not known what name the ancient Olmec used for themselves. Some later Mesoamerican accounts seem to refer to them, to the ancient Olmecs, as Tamochan. And in the books, Africa presents in early America, Africa presence in early Asia. And they came before Columbus are filled with articles and photos that show without a doubt that Negroes have lived literally all over the world, including the ancient Americas. Page 20 and 100, The Mystery of the Olmecs by David Hatcher Childress. The Olmec heads represent the seat of consciousness, the creative power within the universal mind. And there are many similarities in stories of gods and goddesses being worshipped, such as Astar, Tammuz, symbolic of Isis and Horus, Enki and Enlil, symbolic of Set and Osiris. This all I be telling brothers and sisters. You know, the pyramids were used as the house of initiation into the higher levels of consciousness for thousands and thousands of years. You know? The original pyramids in Egypt were polished limestone with a gold cap. It's so much, man, it's so much knowledge, man, that I'm, like I said, man, if brothers and sisters, before we pass on, I hope my family and friends be able to see something that really happened, just like the rest of these churches has created something. You know, because it's a lot that our children need to know. It's a lot. Just like when I talk about the grand nectar of the heavens, when I break things down to your body, when kids say they don't like science and they don't like astrology and all these things, and I say, well, I can connect Aries to your head. I can connect Taurus to your neck. I can connect Gemini to the arms and the shoulders. I can connect Cancer to the breast, Leo to the heart, Virgo the stomach and the bowels, Libra the kidneys and the lions and the small of the back, Scorpio the genitals, Sagittarius the thighs, Capricorn the knees, Aquarius the calves and the legs, Pisces the feet. Even when I quote references, the esoteric masonry or the storehouse unlocked. So with this, we learn today that the Egyptian priests played an important role in preserving what? Knowledge. What knowledge I just break down? Knowledge itself. I just built the perfect man with all his extremities, standing straight up. I ain't even break it all the way down. I just broke it down real fast. Set equals the subconscious mind, the back of your brain. Haru is conscious mind, the front of your brain, the kingdom of mastery of yourself and your mind. So when we deal with Atlantis and its concept, our souls sinking beneath the ocean, drifting into the physical body. So when I talk about the breath, that's the primary source food, the secondary source. So when I say our hands, AKA first-hand experience, you know, second-hand experience. What's the first-hand experience? Something that you're using. Second-hand experience is something that you might play or something that you might see with your eyes. So we possess the keys. For the key doesn't open the door. You do. The key don't open the door, you do. The farther back you look, the further forward you will be able to see. Think about what I'm saying. So when my brothers took oaths, I'm telling you, you know what I'm saying is truth. Why? Because I'm 99 degrees. I'm going to always be transparent. I'm telling my brothers and sisters to come home. We don't have to ask for nobody uh, 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 to accept us. I have my own charter. That's why I'm saying, my brothers and sisters, we can build our own. It can be something beautiful. I'm telling you. The 3 steps to liberation. The ascent to spiritual awareness. 1 is a proper instruction into the mysteries. Initiation, where the student receives proper instruction. 2 is rites of passages. Student then goes through a rite of passage program. And 3, stable foundation. Lessons the student receives will lead him or her to their own stable foundation of upliftment. This is what I tell people: when we connect as one, we have subordinate temples and we do some of the great things in our different areas. Now, this has to be adapted to fit the conditions we are in today. Think about what I'm saying, y'all. And people can help. People can help us do this work. Think about this work, man. I may want to. It's just so much, man, that I've been able to speak on. I'll be speaking one more time before I leave. But setting things up like mentorship programs and so much stuff that we just don't have think tanks, and we don't have people that apply for things. There's people that's ready. We don't help out. We just watch. And I say that's some of the most disheartening thing that I've seen families do. You know, is it disheartening? Yes. But that's just what it is, you know? Because it's just, this stuff is not hard, you know? And I say we need to be resurrected. All this stuff will change. Everything that's happening right now today, it'll change. You know? Everybody got to know this. When I ask people what color was a star, there's all these things that wrapped up in masonry and the Scottish Rite and the symbolic 33 vertebrae, the nerves of the back, symbolic of 33. Jesus died at 33 years, 33 nerves, the spinal, the 33 vertebrae. The York Rite, symbolic of the 7 chakras. The ram equals the kumum. The 32 degrees and below goes through what? The biblical. The 33 degree and above goes through what? The Islamic. And to be obedient, they set it up to make you obedient to the so-called masters. And if you question anything, you basically get excommunicated. But now here at the BBT, because only wisdom you go through initiated is wisdom. It's no secret. It's sacred with us. Because I teach this with a bullhorn. I remove the veil of all secret societies. Masonry teaches that everything in nature has its symbolism, and that there is a meaning that's hidden behind everything. And everything has a dual nature, represented by opposites like the opening of the first, of the fist, of the North Star, a degree representing unseen forces of our cosmic universe. And when it comes down to the origins of Masonry, it's all about knowing yourself and finding out who you are. And most important, learning something about yourself. And that's what I'm telling my brothers and sisters what we should do. All the rest of the stuff, we should be done, you know, hating on each other. We should be done separating. We should be done because this stuff that I speak on is not secret. I was able to speak on this in college campus. I'm able to lecture this. I'm able to travel. And I'm telling my people, I just hope we get to the day where I'm accepted with my misnomer brothers and sisters. When you understand, it's no different from Steve Coakley and from Bobby Hemmett and from Dr. Ben and Sheikh Anna Diop and John Henry Clark when they was lecturing. They had to put their own thing together. And then people that academias like Tony Brown journals, they had to have all our scholars come together. We had to create our own thing. But now what I tell people is in reverse, with all due respect. What do you mean, Sheikh? because brothers and sisters that may took an oath in masonry or fraternities, I don't know. And then when you deal with other nationalities, you are allowed. And I always say this, and I say, what's wrong? Because if I didn't know what I was talking about, I would have flunked out of graduate school. They would have been like, man, get out of here talking that crazy, outlandish stuff. And I tell people my oral dissertation that I proved that the misnomer black man was the father of civilization, proved by the Bible alone, with no biasness, with no prejudice. You know, linguistically, historically. And so for me, when I see we don't have any real libraries like we used to have in our communities, where our people can go to, and we don't have a place where individuals like myself is lecturing and teaching, and we having these different ministries and different mentorships in our community, those are some of the things that I just wish in my lifetime before my flesh gone, we be able to have the opportunity to do. Because there's so much available in my city of Flint, man. There's so many buildings, y'all. There's so much available. We can turn it out. But I think the time is for us to sit down. Especially if we agree with reparations, because I bet you everybody on here is down with reparations, right? Right? And if everybody is down with reparations, then we need to have a think tank, because there's some things that we need to agree on going out the house. And our spirituality and our nationality, just even understanding this and just being in tune. When I talk about my family and friends, just being in tune. When I talk about my nieces and nephews and my aunts and uncles, I know everybody love me, but be in tune. When people say, when I say, man, if I had my building, would you support? Yes. Well, you know we can get a building. It's so many here. And we need some for our family. We need some for our people can go to, our nieces and nephews. If something happened to us, who's gonna do the eulogy? Who's gonna speak on their behalf? Who's gonna be able to come and represent the family as a spiritual head that I do for other people? It's a lot of things that I do. My family probably would never have no idea. It's a lot of things that I do with people that I take care of and people that I mentor. My family have no idea until the flesh is gone. And they'll be like, you didn't know that your nephew or your son or your cousin or your uncle did this? You didn't know that he can go to all the prisons? You don't know he got his own charter? You don't know he's a potentate, blah, blah, blah? And people will be like, well, and I say, well, what's the purpose of having this stuff in your family? This is all I ask, brothers and sisters. I say, what's the purpose of having this in our family? You know, when a person that can come and bring their wisdom, when a person that can come in the family historically, spiritually, educational-wise, and say we can build something. Instead of always going on the outside and talking about others, we can talk about us. It's enough of us. That's all I'll be wanting to talk about, man, to my family and friends. It's enough of us. You know, to what? To do exactly what we talking about. While we watching others and while we complain of what's going on in the world, we see what's going on with so-called Trump and all this stuff. We see what's going on in the world. But I ask people, what about local and what about state? And are you supporting your nation in a nation? Because you can. That's why I said this is a Pandora box. You can support your nation in a nation if you have true understanding. Like I tell a lot of people, some stuff, and no disrespect, because I have compassion for everybody, you know, and I feel for everything. But what about you? What about you? And do anybody come stand up with you when you being subjugated and when you being abused? Do anybody stand up with you when you being abused and say, well, we're going to stand up and make a fight for these people can be whole? We know the laws. We know this. We want to stand up and make these group of people be whole? Because I don't see that. This is all I'm telling my brothers and sisters is we don't have a dog in the fight. Why? Because families don't have infrastructures. Families not taking the time to say, okay, let's support our family. Let's earn something. Let's have our library. Let's have our spiritual house. This, brothers and sisters, this is the best time. And we don't even see this. If you say you down with reparations, then you got to tell me how. And that's all I'm talking. And we haven't even had a think tank. We talking about everything else. People making quotes about 50 Cent and T.I., about all these other things, which to me is meaningless. But us as a people, because I'm down with reparations just like you. But if I'm down with reparations and I say we need our nationality and our spirituality, a place we can have to where we can teach our babies and ourselves to have clear understanding, it's no other way, brothers and sisters. And so if you say you down with reparations, do you think misnomer Negro, Black, and Color, and African Americans would get reparations identifying as Negro, Black, and Color, and African Americans? Anybody on here, I want to see if anybody say yes. Because if you say yes, then we have to have a conversation. Because I'm down with reparations too, brothers and sisters. Think about what I'm saying. So before you answer these things, just like I'm your brother, when people say reparations and all this, but when we are a group of people and we identify to some that's synonymous to slavery, you have to be like, you have to explain to me, how do you think we will get reparations as a people? Because I'm down with it. Cause I'm down with it. I tell everybody, I say, listen, man, I don't care about what nobody mama saying. My mama come right here and my dad sit right down here with me. They elders. I'll be like, listen here, man, we've been miseducated. I'm down with reparations. No one in history would never get no reparations for identifying as something that's synonymous to slavery. That's only as old as who created you. With all due respect, with all honesty. So if we can say these things and have these conversations with each other, then it's another level that we must move to. And when I'm saying the gathering, that where we are, if the school's not going to teach it, then we need to have our 7th hour and let me teach it, and our church is supposed to teach it. And the people support with what? Donations, for we can have our own infrastructure so this can be taught, for it can be discussed. There's no other way. We have to, Noble. That we have to, Brother Cameron. It ain't gonna happen no other way. Brother Bey. It ain't gonna happen no other way. You said, I think we should come as a nation of people before we can get reparations. That's the only way it's gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen no other way. Excuse me. It can't happen no other way. And I always talk about the Declaration of Human Rights, Article 15, when I talk about House Joint Resolution 75, when I talk about the religious rights of the indigenous people, when I talk about doing the thing, proclaiming, declaring, and having due process, when I talk about one nationality but many cultures. Once we know about this, once we know about the SF 181 form and how we sign pertaining to ethnicity, once we know these things, it's over. We connect ourselves to the mothers and fathers of nations. In early in the 80s in Atlanta, you can see the Declaration Proclamation that was signed by the mayor. And then you can see in 2012 with all the different mayors signed the Declaration Proclamation. You can even go to the city hall and ask the mayor what were misnomered black people called before the Civil War. They'll tell you, Moors. People get it all twisted, want to play semantics. M-U-U-R versus the M-O-O-R. Man, I don't have time with those semantics. I deal with real civics. I deal with real civics and deal with real understanding. You proclaim and declare and have due process. And anytime you identify willingly to a slave, the Negro, Black, and Color can't be connected to the nations. It can't, because it never was. Remember, the Dred Scott Law was never abolished. And it was illegal to be Negro, Black, and Color since the 80s, since the 1800s. With all due respect. So it's ways to do things, but no one else is going to bring up charges for people. The people have to do it as a body. And Where most people go is to church. The church is not even bringing it up. And then our misnomer Mason brothers, which I love everyone, they're not bringing it up because we're still using these things that's synonymous to slavery. Anytime we put black in front of something and use it to describe something, you might as well put dead in front of it. So put dead in front of every time we use that word. Remember, and in Spanish, negrito mean black. It's just a lot. When I say we can have these conversations, I've had these conversations in academia, but we have to have the infrastructure, we have to have the body, and people have to support this and spread it, for we can have a civil conversation, Brother Cameron, like you and I doing right now. Not talking about no whole bunch of fake paper stuff and a whole bunch of stuff we heard on TikTok, but have an intellectual conversation, men that got families and teach their children and want to be upright. It is a way to do things because what? The religious laws trump everything. That's why. The religious laws trump everything that operate. This is a fact. And if we know this, then we can start what? Making progress. We can start making progress. You know, because the religious laws trump everything. When we know these things, when we operate as a people, when we resurrect things that's already there, it's no doubt. The house is built, the furniture in it, we must live into it. Remember, there's ways to do things. And when we do things the right way, when things are being done the right way, it's nothing else you have to do because the body do it. You remember this when I say it's the right way to do things, and it's easy to get caught up when you don't want to do things right because we haven't been educated. Brothers like yourself and myself that operate right, that been through things, that been through the lion's den, that understand, we not going to bring no one through a burning house, and we're not going to teach nothing that we wouldn't teach our children. I sure wouldn't. And whatever I teach, an individual won't get them in trouble. It will liberate you. What I teach you will clean you up. What I teach you will make you walk upright. Why? Because that's just what's right. And so, yes, before we even can discuss any reparations, when it talking about any type of disbursement, people have to agree on paper. And right now, a group of people can't agree. We can't even agree on ancient or things that's common because people will get so caught on this religious aspect. And when I say if we dealing with law, if things wrapped up in law, then we have to deal with law. And I'm telling you, black has no standing in law when it's pertaining to ethnicity. It's civil ter mortis. So when we dealing with specifics, when we dealing with a people, when we dealing with ethnicity, when we dealing with race theory, when we dealing with white by law, when I talk about nationality, race, and status, a lot of people don't even understand what I mean when I say white by law. A lot of people will get caught up when they hear Malik say this, and when I say you have to really sit down and research some things and see. That's why I just jump on here and have conversations, and I challenge people to come to class and support what we're doing and be my guest and join us on StreamYard with my muftis, for people can talk, for people can have these documents, for all y'all in different areas in the world, like you, Brother Cameron Bey, you need to join us. People need to join us. People been following me for so long. Support some, let's come together, for we can make a real movement. So then when we start having our next Morris Ball, it's brothers from everywhere, from understanding, and it spread like wildfire. This is what I'm talking about when it's done the right way, because there's so much stuff out here. This is what I'm saying. Anybody want any understanding how the temple is set up, what things mean, you can get it the right way from somebody that's going to guide you the right way. And it's nothing to recreate, it's nothing to make up. All we have to do is what? Bring the things up that's already there. Bring the things up, the precedent in law cases, the doc number, the free information, bring the information that's already there. And you don't get rid of information when you're trying to prove something. You don't change nothing. Remember, when I talk about annexing your El or Bay, Noble Drew Ali, Timothy Drew, did he get rid of anything or did he annex? He annexed. He just like I'm Noble Goodman Bey, Noble Drew Ali, Timothy Drew. He annexed. He annexed. His Ali. Nothing changed. So when people begin things misconstrued, I just be thinking a lot of brothers haven't really studied and haven't really dealt with the divine, or vice versa. Some people be hardcore on one thing and not on the other, and you be dealing with a person thinking some ID card that you met on the internet from somebody is gonna do something for you. Somebody that you met on the internet. Like that's not even Moorish Science Temple of America, and I'm Moorish Science Temple of America, and I wouldn't do that. Do I have ID card for my temple in school? Yes, that's all it is. ID for my temple in school. It don't replace nothing. It's telling people that we operate a certain way and they under a certain auspices, which is our right, which is our religious right. And so we do things in a certain manner, and we have our religious charter, and we have our religious exempt. We're not against or we're not for nothing. What we are for is our right to make a sound decision with anything going on. Just like during the so-called pandemic, when people say, oh, they got to get the COCO to keep their job and all this. And I say, if you got your religious affidavit, if you operating right, you are exempt. So a lot of things I don't be worried about because I operate in the right way. But what I'm telling people, you should want to do things in the right way. And if somebody telling you and giving you proper instruction when you're going into anything, no matter if it's dealing with me or if dealing with anyone, you should want sound counsel. You should be willing to say, let me get with this person, so before I do this, this person is my legal advice in my best interest, that I can get some information, I can ask certain questions, so if I'm dealing with this person, I can stop myself in my tracks. How? With the information that you would get from me to tell you to stop. Think about this, what a map and a guide, what a true God man can do with access of information, when I can say, brother, everyone that done this, they got in trouble. When I talk about the state booklet, when I talk about the 1099, when everybody be saying it's a trust fund, it's not. I can show things, I can show precedent in things where you will be like, man, you will have to stop. And if anybody doing it, they'll have to stop. This is what I'll be warning people, and it still happened today. We need a panel. Brothers like you, Cameron, you need to come to the cipher and make sure that you don't do anything, or anyone attached to you be having you doing things that's going to lead you what? Into a world of trouble. I always tell brothers this, and I be understanding the excitement in brothers' eyes. I really do. But this stuff can get you in trouble. I'm telling you. And we do things the right way, with love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. But once again, man, thank y'all for listening to me. I got to study, man. I had a long day today. And like I'm saying, man, I'm going to be coming back every week in the evening and in the morning, when I have my time, just to share things with brothers and sisters. And as I'm getting the backing and the help from other people and from different organizations, as I'm applying for different grants, I'm going to still be here to show y'all what we can do. Because I know what we can do, man. If people just shared it, and we push, and people create your own podcasts and have us on there as guests, so we can share this with other people, and we can deal with some truth of the matter, and we can hold people accountable for all the bull crap. It's a lot that we can hold the people accountable for, and when we start doing it, it's going to start pointing back at our own self. It's not going to be at no one else. It's going to start pointing back right at ourselves, Brother Cameron. I promise you. That's what's going to start happening, because I know we don't know. And no one has the power over us to keep us subjugated but us. We have the power to do everything. And that's what's happening right now in the world. We have it. We just have to understand what to do with it and give some trust and some honesty and say, you know what? I'm going to deal with this. Let's rock and roll. And everybody that rock with me on this level, I want to talk to them and make sure they rock with this, for we can really do this. We can. I'm telling you, I already know we can. I've seen it done. We talk about the $5 Indian so much. I say, dude, I don't talk about other things. I say, what can we do? We talk about people with all these mega churches and all that. I said, that's fine, but they operate off donations. We can apply for grants and all that stuff once we get to going, and once we got people going on and people can start migrating around and start traveling, doing work in your community. It don't have to be just local. When people are traveling things, you traveling into your temple and your school, we doing work. And we a brotherhood, so it's so much to do. And then people move into that geographical area. This is what I'm saying, brothers and sisters. Let's build this community and share this, man. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, Khary Goodman, Khary Ibna Hakim Goodman Bey, but specifically our Temple and School YouTube channel at Burning Bush Tabernacle Science Temple and School. And brothers and sisters, I have a full library. Once again, if you study, which I really recommend you to study, I have a full library. I can recommend books to you. You can get these books from me as ebooks for a small donation that you don't have to pay thousands for. I have a full library, with all respect, with over 1 million books and documents. And I'm not trying to boast or brag. I'm just being honest with you. I've done that work. And I really have hard copy books with like 3 storage units stacked up. And I converted a lot of books to ebooks. And I'm challenging y'all to use me. I'll give you bundles for small dollars and expensive books. If you like the writing stuff, we print and bind them. This for the same price as Office Max and Staples. But brothers and sisters, we got to get into the know. And I promise you, the only reason why we don't know is because we're not introduced to certain information. We don't have documents. We don't have books and things we can go to and teach ourselves and teach our children and re-educate ourselves. And that's what Carter G. Woodson said, the miseducation of the misnomer Negro. We have to blame our professors and our preachers and all that, not no one else. And right now, brothers and sisters, I'm challenging y'all, once again, use your brother support. We want to have our infrastructure, our 7th hour, our community center. We can do this right in my city of Flint. It's so much stuff available. And we can operate and won't nothing change our lives. But once again, brothers and sisters, if y'all looking for books and wisdom, y'all got my information, share it, inbox me. Y'all know my information. Y'all have my phone number. Y'all have my email. Once again, hit me up, family. My email is Goodman, GOODMANKHARY @gmail.com. Get with me. I'm telling you, I have a full library. I'll build your whole library from wisdom and understanding. And we can become allies and we can have our own panels and change this science. So, peace, love, light, and illumination. I love y'all, man. Peace, Noble Malik. Love you too, Noble. Love everybody on here. Let me give some shouts out to Sharif, my Noble Armand. I got to see you before I get out of Flint, Noble. Let me know when I can come see you. Peace to Solutions, my Noble Malik. Easy Money. I think I see you on here before, Easy Money. Peace and love, Easy Money. Get some books or some wisdom from me, man. Inbox me. I'll give you some bundles. Your Majesty, peace. Who else? Let me see. Your Majesty, Kenneth, peace. Oh, that's my Noble Malik again. Ashton Womack, peace and love. SIO 369, peace and love. User 389, peace and love. Maurice Gaines, Alchemist Solutions. Alchemist Sunkiss, peace and love. Who else did I do? I got anybody else? Okay. Shop QEB, peace and love. Larius, peace and love. Just in Case, peace and love. Angel Evans, Heaven Sent, peace and love. Ashe, peace and love. Mary Jane, peace and love. Man, I probably don't have enough time to say peace and love to everyone. But if I didn't say peace and love, man, peace and love. Mikey, Ben, Maurice, My Prom Music, Kelly, Jim, Ascend, Christopher, Bamba Solutions, Empress, TF, peace. And I got to start saying peace to the Empresses. Peace and love to you, Empress, Empress TF. Peace and love to you, Divine Empress. I want to say peace and love and light to you as well. Anything you need, all you got to do is hit me up. Any information you need, Empress. Like I said, anything that you may be confused on or that you may need enlightenment on or going forward, just information on how things going, just in case you might think some things or someone might tell you something and you might not be clear. You always have a source to ask questions. So when people coming at you saying this is that, you can always have something to compare to because you're not a widow, Empress. Your brother right here with you. So I want everybody to know that. Peace, Joy Brown. Peace, Brian. Peace, user 443. Peace, Willie Jackson. Peace Raw, John. Peace KK. I'm just trying to shout everybody out. Peace Jerry. Peace Leonard Bryant. Peace In Pursuit of Peace. In Pursuit of Peace. Peace Mac and Wise. Peace Craig. Peace User 000473584. Peace The Book of Neff. Peace Knit I2 Times Official. Peace Rocky. Peace El Sankey. Peace No. Peace Horace. Peace K Win. Salome. I Am Rhythm of Remedies. Just peace, man. It's a lot of people on here, and I thank all of y'all for being here, man, as y'all continue to show love, as I continue to show love back. But brothers and sisters, once again, I have a full library. Peace just in case. Just got the #1 viewer badge. Peace just in case. But once again, brothers, hit me up. I have a full library. I give you books for pennies of a dollar, and you will love it. And I can give you a tax-exempt receipt because it's part of my ministry. But use me as a source, man. I love y'all. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace, man.